We go to Biden full speed ahead, his presidential announcement today, and I know that many of you are livid over how Biden chose to announce his entrance into the race today using this bogus fake news story of what supposedly was said by the president, Donald Trump, in the aftermath of the incident in Charlottesville, Virginia. Now, interestingly, Biden wanted to actually announce his entry into the campaign live in Charlottesville, and they told him in Charlottesville they didn't want him. They're sick of it. The Charlottesville is a leftist domain, but this is something that even they want to try to get past and don't want to be known for. And so they asked Biden not to do it live. So he decided for the rigors of a video announcement, and he chose to focus his reason for getting into the race because the soul of America is on the verge of being lost because of what Donald Trump said after the protest that took place in Charlottesville over the Confederate flag and statues of Confederate heroes and so forth. So here is, we have two sound bites of the video from Joe Biden announcing his campaign based on an abject lie of what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, back in a couple of years ago, whenever, I forget the year, it's just within the past 2 years, and the President Trump's reaction to it. Here's the first bite.
He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
I want you to stop and think for a moment here. What happened in Charlottesville is a much greater threat than what happened on 9/11. In fact, he's not even upset over what happened in Charlottesville. He's upset about what the president supposedly said about it, which is a lie. That is the catalyst. That was what woke Joe Biden up. That is what made Joe Biden realize that the threat to this nation was unlike anything he had ever seen in his lifetime. The president did not draw a moral equivalence between those protesting in Charlottesville. Get to that in a minute. Here's another bite from the Bite Me presidential announcement video.
If we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation, who we are. And I cannot stand by and watch that happen. The core values of this nation, our standing in the world, our very democracy, everything that has made America, America is at stake. That's why today I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. We can't forget what happened in Charlottesville. Even more important, we have to remember who we are. This is America.
Man, this is just amazing. This one event, it's they know that they're lying about it, and they're continuing to go back to what I said yesterday. They cannot innovate. The Mueller investigation has got to become Watergate, and there has to be a John Dean, and they hope that that's Don McGahn. Everything has to be something from the past repeated. So Charlottesville is the equivalent of the Oklahoma City bombing or whatever it is they're trying to draw connections to. But they're making it up. They are lying about it, just as they lied about it the moment it happened. But of all the events that have happened in this country, say in the last 2 years, that might want to inspire somebody to run for president, Charlottesville, what does it tell you? It's exactly our last caller. He is attempting to exploit African-American voters and Jewish voters. They are being used again by Biden, as though they are thoughtless and as though they are helpless. They can't take care of themselves. They can't protect themselves. It takes somebody like Joe Biden, the Democrat Party, to protect them from all of the evils out there who happen to be Donald Trump. It's cheap, it's insufficient, but more importantly, the whole thing is a lie. We're going to go back and listen to what Donald Trump said. Charlottesville is another hoax. It's another made-up fake news hoax. What Trump really said is very different than what Biden is launching his campaign based on today. Donald Trump never said that white neo-Nazis are good people and that they are a moral equivalence to the protesters that were there opposing whatever was going on, Confederate statues and so forth, that the left was demanding all be torn down. Here's Trump soundbite number one.
I will tell you something. I watched those very closely, much more closely than you people watched it. And you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent. And nobody wants to say that, but I'll say it right now. You had a group on the other side that came charging in without a permit, and they were very, very violent. I've condemned neo-Nazis. I've condemned many different groups, but not all of those people were neo-Nazis, believe me. Not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. Those people were also there because they wanted to protest the taking down of a statue, Robert E. Lee.
So right there is this whole so-called controversy in a nutshell, because Trump refused to follow the fake news structure that everybody opposing the left had to be white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and racist bigots. And Trump pointed out that the left protesters didn't even have the permit. They're the ones that caused the trouble. The other people had a permit to assemble. The left group didn't. They stormed in there and tried to shut this event down. Trump simply points out they didn't have a permit, and that not everybody in this protest was illegitimate. There were some people who legitimately believe in Robert E. Lee and don't think that his statue ought to come down, and they are not white supremacists, and they are not neo-Nazis or Nazis of any kind. Well, that's all it took. When you violate the tenets of political correctness and when you go against what is the established narrative, that gave them the opening to suggest that Trump was suggesting a moral equivalence between the two groups. Now, that was August 15th, 2017, Trump Tower. The event happened on August 12th. Here's the second Trump soundbite on this, and over again, you hear him. He will differentiate between the neo-Nazis and the people who were there protesting the removal of a statue.
Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Kill the person. Heather hired
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as you, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Right. So there it is. You had fine people on both sides. It's undeniable. But the left has constructed a fake news scenario in which the only angelic and decent protesters were the left, who wanted to eliminate any monuments, any remembrances of the Confederacy and so forth, and those who didn't. And then the neo-Nazis, a small segment of group, storm in there, try to take over the event or disrupt it and so forth. And Trump did not fall for the trick. He refused to follow through on what the media and everybody was demanding, and he condemned everybody on the other side. That's what they demanded he do, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't condemn everybody, which is what the left always demands. Condemn everybody on the right, disavow everybody on the right. Trump would not do it. And this is the payback. They go out and they lie, and they now claim that Trump was defending the neo-Nazis and claiming that there's some good people in the neo-Nazis. We all must be united, Trump said. We must all condemn all that hate stands for. There's no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides, many sides. What's vital now is a swift restoration of law and order. This is another thing that he should have done. He actually pointed out there were some violent ne'er-do-wells in the left in this protest, too, which there were. But you're not supposed to say it. That was on August 12th. 3 days later at Trump Tower, you heard Trump taking questions from the media, asking questions about Charlottesville, and Trump defended his statement on August 12th that I just read to you and repeated his claim that there was blame on both sides. He said not all those people were neo-Nazis. Believe me, not all of those people were white supremacists by any stretch. He said the push to remove Confederate statues was an attempt to change history, which it is, adding that he believed there were very fine people on both sides. He then added, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists. They should be condemned totally. That part of what he said, nobody airs. There were fine people on both sides, and then he added, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis. They did not air that aspect. Nobody has. Left for us to dig up. So this is what Biden has sought to exploit to announce his candidacy. Because what his candidacy is really about is hating Donald Trump. But now he's got to go out and convince Democrat-based voters that he also hates America, because it's America as currently constituted that gave us Donald Trump. You got to hate America, you got to hate Trump, and you got to hate the people who voted for Trump.